Hello friends, you know the meaning of the word novel. This is a large, complex, epic work that covers a wide range of life events and reveals the history of the formation of many characters. The main elements of the novel are the narrative and the imaginary world it creates in space and time, inhabited by characters, filled with events and close in the plot. So Red Dead Redemption 2 can be safely called a video game, embodiment of the great American novel. This game recreates the general atmosphere of the time with incredible accuracy. We see a picture of ordinary feelings and customs of American existence, which I think is fully reflected in the game. It's a story you want to immerse yourself in and take apart into small pieces. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a lot of secrets and details that are not always obvious. Tons of dialogues and various references to the work of other authors and real historical events. In this section I want to collect all the references, unobvious little things, rare dialogues and various secrets of the Red Dead Redemption world and create a video for each chapter separately. Today we will analyze in detail the first chapter of the game, which is considered to be the prologue of this long story. Obviously, the beginning of the game is to some extent inspired by Quentin Tarantino's movie Hateful Eight. A snowstorm, a group of people fighting their way through the bad weather and quoting some of the shots almost one-to-one. Look how similar this scene is where Arthur Morgan is introduced to the player, just like the character in front of the viewer in the movie, which is definitely not a coincidence. In the Wild West Outlaws mission, one of the gang members, Davey, dies due to a wound sustained during a failed ferry robbery near the town of Blackwater. We can see his body with coins in the front of him in the video at the beginning of the game. Also, the location of Dave's body can be found on the minimap. And if we look through the broken window in the house, using the photo mode, we can also see that the body is in the house. But if you go in the opposite direction from where the developers want to send us, you can find Dave's grave, despite the fact that the character's body is in the house nearby. Apparently, Rockstar thought that the player would immediately go with Dutch and not explore Coulter at the beginning of the game. A little later in this same mission, if you don't immediately go to the stables after the order from Dutch, and if you follow Micah into the house, you can watch him how he's satched. He looks under the bed, put cans and supplies in his pocket, and tries on boots that probably didn't fit or didn't like him at all. I noticed an interesting detail. The items under the bed that Micah put in his pocket appear there at the exact moment he picks them up. Also in this house you can see blood on the floor and traces of a struggle. Most likely, the Adler's family initially tried to fight back against the O'Driscolls, but in the end it ended sadly, especially for Jake, Sandy's husband. By the way, in the room you can find a calendar with a waterfall on it. I think this is a waterfall that is located in the Granite Pass location, but the bridge has not yet been built. It also looks a bit like the waterfall from the Brandywine Drop location. Write in the comments your opinion about this waterfall. The next interesting detail of this mission concerns O'Driscoll, who attacked Arthur in the stables. If you let him go, we will meet him later in the mission Old Friends. He will say a short phrase and die immediately from our shot. Also in the Old Friends mission, when Arthur is watching the O'Driscoll's camp, we can see that the head of the gang, Colm O'Driscoll, is telling someone off. If we zoom in on the camera, we can see KIERAN DUFFY. This is the same character who will be caught by Arthur at the end of the task. He will become our prisoner until certain events that will take place in the second chapter. However, you can interact with him in the prologue if you complete this mission before the aftermath of Genesis mission. You can find the prisoner in the stables. There he is under the supervision of Charles. You can start a dialogue with him.
Killed at that ranch down the way.
Who was that? Declan? Fat Tommy?
Didn't get as far as introduction.
How long are you gonna keep me like this?
Ain't decided yet.
Come on, I'm freezing to death here.
All go on a plan then.
There is also one small but very interesting detail waiting for us in the stables. If you look closely at the horses of the gang, you will notice an unusual color. Horses MICHA and Dutch have blue eyes, which make them different from other horses. Arthur will be able to get a horse with blue eyes only at the end of chapter 5. The hint is on the screen. Let's go back to KIERAN DUFFY. After we have caught up him and loaded onto the horse, we can ride with him to the chest in which we will find the amulet. Then ride to the site of the archaeological find and mark it in the notebook. You can also go to the barn at ADLER'S ranch. There should be a chest here, but for some reason it's not there at this point in the game. But if you are lucky, you can find a panoramic map. This mission also contained the main secret of the first chapter, Micah Bell's revolver, which can be obtained with a little trick. There is a separate video on this topic on the channel, so I leave you a hint. Dutch and Bill's weapons can also be knocked out of their hands, but unfortunately you won't be able to pick up them. Before we move forward, I want to tell you about another small detail that surprised me. Pay attention to the jar of salted offal standing next to Mr. Pearson. It is drawn to the smallest detail. This jar he will pick up from the table and hand to Arthur at the beginning of the mission before they go hunting. It's a completely unnoticeable detail, but it says a lot about the development of RDR2. In In some other game this item will be appear from the character's pocket, or it would have been on the table after the cutscene began. In the mission The Aftermath of Genesis, before killing the deer, you can run into this house, pick up a collectible card and some supplies. If you don't listen to Charles'
No, use the bow I gave you.
advice about silent hunting with a bow and kill all the deer with a gun, then after you load the deer onto the horse, a short dialogue would take a place, in which I think Charles got a little upset.
You found him. Hoped you'd use the bow, but you're a good shot. It's easier when
And this is not the only opportunity to upset Charles in this mission. On the way to the camp you will meet a bear. Charles will say that you need to find another way. If you start shooting at it, it will also upset Charles, and he will also comment on it. By the way, you will not be able to kill the bear in this mission. In the penultimate mission of Chapter 1 of Who the Hell is Leviticus Cornwall, where a gang tries to rob the train of an inflation oil tycoon, there are two references to cinematic classics at once, the first of which most likely refers to the movie The Train Robbery of 1903. Just like in the movie, the engineer tries to defend himself against the criminals by using a shovel for coal. In the game, in this scene, Arthur is a little less lucky. The second reference brings to mind Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid by George Roy Hill from 1969. Like the main character of the movie, Dutch tries to negotiate with the train guards at the first, but he fails. That's why he has to use brute force. The scenes have some difference, but here and there is a locked door being opened with dynamite. In the movie it's a safe, but in the game it's an armored wagon. However, the explosion in the movie was more impressive. And that's not all that its classic western has in common with the Rockstar game. In both the movie and the game, after a successful train robbery by a gang, the owner of the stolen goods hires the bounty hunters to deal with the bandits. This is the end of the interesting details and secrets of the first chapter. If I missed something, please write about it in the comments. Also subscribe to the channel, there are many more interesting things to come. Thank you for watching everyone and good luck!